This is Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. Hello and welcome. I am Bukola Koka. Our top stories today. President Muhammadu Buhari swears in 10 new permanent secretaries. Federal government begins the promised evacuation of stranded Nigerian students from Sudan. As preparations for the May 29 inauguration gets underway, Plateau, Sokoto states set up transition committee. Thank you for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari is presiding over the Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House, Abuja. Before the commencement of the meeting, the president swore in 6 newly appointed federal permanent secretaries. They include Adam Mahmoud Kambari from Borno State, Iswabana Nko Asanye of Cross River, Lamuwa Adamu Ibrahim from Gombe State, Yakubu Adam Kofar Mata from Kano State, Oloruntola Olufemi Michael, Ogun State, and Richard Filangwa from Taraba State. In attendance at the meeting are the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, Head of the Federal Civil Service, Dr. Folashade Yemieson, and the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno, retired. Others present at the meeting include the Ministers of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, Information and Culture Minister, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, that of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Musa Bello, among others. In an interview with State House correspondents, the head of Civil Service of the Federation, Mrs. Folashade Yemieson, charged the new permanent secretaries to give their best in the discharge of their duties to advance efficiency of the country's civil service. The federal government will today begin evacuation of about 5,500 Nigerian students, including those stranded in Khartoum and other cities in Sudan. To facilitate the repatriation, the government has released 150 million naira for hiring 40 buses to convey its desperate citizens from Sudan to Cairo in Egypt. The money was paid to an undisclosed transport company on Tuesday at 12:37 p.m. by the Central Bank of Nigeria through the National Emergency Management Agency. The chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri-Eriwa, confirmed this on Tuesday that the payment had been made, noting that the evacuees would take off today. The evacuation is taking place against the backdrop of the 3-day ceasefire starting midnight on Tuesday, declared by the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Force, RSF. And some Nigerian students stranded in Sudan have been sharing their experiences. One of them is Abdullahi Kyari, a student of the International University of Africa, Khartoum, Sudan. Abdullahi Kyari says the experience has been really bad. According to him, they had no access to electricity, water, while internet services were also shut down. But according to him, the buses for evacuation are already on campus, and the Nigerian government is ready to begin evacuating them today. He was speaking on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
There is an online Google form for Nigerian students to fill. This is how they were able to gather the 3,500 Nigerian students that wanted to leave. Hopefully, all the students will leave today if all the buses arrive. We were told that we are to be moved to Egypt. The buses will move from Khartoum to Egypt, then from there we'll cross the border, and then we'll have our flights to Nigeria. But it's actually difficult and it's a long journey. Right now, as I speak to you, if you go out in the street, you can see buses moving. Some Nigerians have embarked on personal journey. Some have even crossed the border. They are in Ethiopia. Some have already booked their flight to tomorrow. There are generations of Nigerians here in Sudan. Some have been here in Sudan for long during these people that do take a road trip to pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. So they have their own settlement here, an area closer to Khartoum. So there are a lot of Nigerians there. And then recently, around 2022, during all this, what do you call the banditry, there are people that cross from Nigeria, Niger, from Chad, Sudan. So actually there are a lot of Nigerians here in Khartoum and in Sudan in particular.
Away from Sudan now, perhaps temporarily, to politics. The Labour Party has raised the alarm over an action taken by a self-acclaimed factional chairman of the party, Lamidi Apapa, asking the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal to dismiss all cases by his party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, against the victory of Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in the February 25, 2023 election. The Labour Party's acting National Publicity Secretary, Obiora Ifo, in a statement, urged the tribunal in Abuja to disregard the antiques by Apapa, who, according to him, is a suspended Deputy National Chairman of the Labour Party. He says, "We are by this statement informing all arms of the judiciary, including the tribunals and courts, to ignore the ignoble antiques of these compromised, suspended members of the party. We're also calling on the police, DSS and the EFCC to arrest these enemies of democracy." Ahead of the inauguration of the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, some senior members of the All Progressives Congress, APC, are assuring Nigerians that the incoming administration will not fail to deliver on its manifesto of renewed hope. Senator Barnabas Agemade told Channels Television in Abuja that Nigerians should expect improved governance from the president-elect as he assembles his cabinet.
It is a beehive of activities as stalwarts of the All Progressives Congress thronged the residence of the president-elect in Abuja.
This is serious. Who is first?
After holding private talks with the president-elect, a member of the party who was elected senator for Benue North East constituency in 2011 assures Nigerians of good governance.
Nigerians should expect to have a 100-yard dash when this new government comes into place. The thoughts and all the planning that's been going on behind the scene is such that we have very strong belief that this government will hit the ground running.
Two former governors who also visited the president-elect share their thoughts on the issue of the leadership of the 10th National Assembly.
We are in a situation where we have to comply by the spirit of the Constitution. A situation where everybody will have a sense of belonging and self-determination. It's very, very necessary that if we have to have a stable government, a very peaceful separation of powers, we also have to consider what the Constitution says about giving everybody a sense of belonging.
The issue of Senate presidency is a function of the senators, and particularly all the senators-elect, including those who are returning, and they are all my colleagues. I've had the privilege of serving the Senate before as a minority leader, and so any senator should be ready, if his colleagues so wish, to avail himself to be used as a Senate president. So the chances for somebody like me will be very high because of the fact that my colleagues already know my track record.
Senator Bola Tinubu, president-elect, after a one-month vacation in Europe, returned to Nigeria on Monday, the 24th of April, to a tumultuous welcome, an indication that preparations are in top gear for his swearing-in on the 29th of May 2023.
In similar vein, Senator Ibrahim Oluriegbe says the All Progressives Congress, APC, will elect the 10th National Assembly leadership according to what the Constitution says and will ensure that federal character is well considered in the interest of the people. Senator Oluriegbe also says the issue of zoning will also be looked into, which he believes the President-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, will be able to address.
The party, we look at a party that wants to govern the country, Nigeria. And part of what the Constitution, under Section 14.4, try to do is to be able to see that we stabilize this country called Nigeria through various means, including the fact that there must be federal character in everything that we do. So, and I think this will come into play in terms of the thinking of the party. So the essence of zoning is to be able to address that spirit of the Constitution in terms of inclusiveness, in terms of carrying everybody along. So all will come into consideration. Two, There are various ways through which the party will be able to, if I want to say, reward the various segments or sectors that have brought in votes. Because without the vote, you can't be talking about all this we are talking about. So it's not only the National Assembly leadership. There are other ways through which that can be handled. Because the president himself is very experienced. He was a former legislator. He has been a governor in the state where he has handled, and in the state which is quite cosmopolitan and complex, and he has handled twice leadership issues at that level. Not only that, mentioning all those that you mentioned, and beyond that, other capacities available within the party will be able to come in. And as you mentioned, one of the things again is lessons are always learned in life. 2015 was a lesson learned by the party, and I'm sure I would say by the country generally. That will also come in to make the party to come in a very good way, to see that there's peace and that we have leadership that's accepted by all, and that we're able to get the National Assembly that will work together with the executive to deliver for Nigerians.
Ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly in June, a northern-based group, Arewa Initiative for Good Governance, has kicked against the zoning of the Senate presidency to a particular region, saying that what should determine the next president of the Senate is character and competence. For this reason, the Arewa Initiative for Good Governance has endorsed the senator representing Niger East Senatorial District, Sani Musa, as the next Senate president, describing him as the best among equals to lead the 10th National Assembly. The group therefore appeals to the leadership of the All Progressives Congress to allow the elected lawmakers choose the best among themselves that will lead them, rather than zoning the position of the Senate president to a particular region.
We are all aware the race for the seat of the Senate President of 10th Senate is on. Alliances are made, deals are currently being sealed, and sides are taken by various interest groups. It is equally true that Nigeria has just come out of historically divisive elections, which has polarized the country along critical divides. Consequent upon that, the road leading to the healing process and rebuilding the mutual trust among various aggrieved divides majorly depend on the National Assembly and its leadership. We all need a fearless leader to give us all the assurances and peaceful backwater. Senator Sani 313 is no doubt a fearless leader, a very intelligent man. He has the mentality of a good soldier who does not put all his cards on the table. And he most of all understands what you are saying. His political ideology and social doctrine, steeped in experience, are perfectly coordinated in a well-balanced personality.
As we move to the next phase of politicking, which involves determining the leadership of the red and green chambers of the National Assembly, it is important that we ensure power is distributed fairly across the nation. As the Arewa young professionals in politics, we are urging the APC leadership and the president-elect to carefully consider the need for political inclusion in the 2023 power equation. Specifically, we call on them to, 1, zone the Senate presidency to southeastern part of Nigeria for political inclusion. 2, zone the speakership to the northwestern part of Nigeria for political compensation, being it that the northwest zone gave the highest vote to the APC government. 3, ensure that the leadership of the National Assembly projects our religious diversity for national cohesion. These steps will go a long way in promoting unity and national integration. We implore the APC leadership and the president-elect to employ wisdom in making these decisions.
Still to come on the program. Preparations for May 29 inauguration are underway as states begin setting up transition committees. Details after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A 9-member transition handing over and swearing-in committee has been inaugurated by the Plateau State Governor-elect, Caleb Muftwang. According to the Governor-elect, the committee is to liaise with the government team to jointly receive and collate handing over notes from ministries, departments and agencies, as well as plan activities towards a befitting transition of power and swearing-in.
3 weeks after Governor Simon Lalong inaugurated a central planning committee to oversee the transition process in Plateau State, the incoming government of the People's Democratic Party under the governor-elect has inaugurated the party's nominees that will join the incumbent government for a smooth and successful transition of power. Speaking at the occasion, which also marked the dissolution of the campaign council, the governor-elect stresses the purpose of the party's victory at the polls, which is for good governance, as well as an opportunity to correct past mistakes.
Let me remind us that the purpose of this victory is not for ourselves, it's for the people of Plateau. In our first sojourn as PDP, we made many mistakes, which we must admit. It is time to correct on those mistakes and build on the future. Like the song they used to sing during Babajan's time, PDP Batabamu Kwingama. Let's resurrect that mindset, that PDP will become a platform that Plateau people will be proud of.
The governor-elect proceeds to formally inaugurate the committee members, reminding them of the task ahead.
It is my singular honor and privilege to pronounce this transition committee inaugurated from this hour, this day. I'm charging you, sons and men, that you work for the good people of Plateau State, that we might have a smooth takeover.
The committee chairman, Professor Ganieri Globin, expresses confidence that members will live up to the people's expectations regarding the assignment.
Mr. Governor, I want to assure you that the people you have chosen will deliver on the job assigned to them.
The transition committee from the incumbent and incoming government have the task of ensuring a befitting transition to usher a new administration into governance in Plateau State.
The Sokoto State Governor-elect Ahmed Aliyu Sokoto has reeled out his incoming administration's 9-point agenda to include tackling insecurity, provision of quality education, improving healthcare delivery, granting local government autonomy, water supply, agriculture, women and youth empowerment, economy, as well as promoting religious affairs. The governor, who was speaking shortly after inaugurating the APC 108-man transition committee, charged members to draw recommendations from the received handover report and highlight the most critical issues that will require the attention of the incoming APC government in Sokoto State. The committee members were given terms of reference to, among other things, develop a clear framework for liaising with the outgoing administration for the purpose of a smooth takeover.
The committee will look at thus the SMART 9-point agenda policy, which includes security, promoting religious affairs, education, healthcare delivery, water supply, economy, agriculture, women and youth empowerment, and local government autonomy. Accordingly, you are expected to draw inference and recommendations from the received handover reports. You are also to highlight the most urgent and critical issues that may be confronting the incoming APC Sokoto government. On this note, I wish to say that your committee is essentially aimed at obtaining facts that are necessary to develop a framework that will enable great early state by the incoming administration.
3 citizens of Adamawa arrested by the Department of State Services DSS have dragged the DSS before the State High Court for alleged illegal detention by the department for 7 days without trial. The three persons known as Zira John, Solomon Abafras, and Mohammed Yusuf filed separate applications on April the 20th, 2023 on the court over their unlawful detention by the DSS, which is against their fundamental human rights, slated for hearing on Tuesday, April the 25th. But the case could not be heard for failure to serve the court process on the DSS. Counsel to the applicants are therefore asking for an interim order for the release of their clients after being in detention of the DSS for over 7 days without trial, which is a breach of their fundamental human rights. The presiding judge, Justice Christopher Mapeo of the Adamawa High Court, therefore adjourned the hearing to April the 27th, following a request by the counsel to the applicants because their efforts to serve the process on the DSS last Friday failed, as it was a public holiday.
The prayer is for the release of the applicants. Every Nigerian has a fundamental human right not to be kept in police custody beyond 48 hours. They have been there since Wednesday. This is not an application for unconditional release. It's release so that if they so desire, if they want to proceed against them in court, they can exercise the right to proceed in court. But they don't have a right to keep them beyond the time the Constitution stipulates. That is the point we're making here.
A news just in says the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is accusing the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of being partial, stating that it ought to maintain neutrality in electoral proceedings between candidates. In a reply he filed before the Presidential Election Petition Court, Mr. Obi faulted the electoral body for filing a preliminary objection in support of the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He notes that both the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal had in the past cautioned INEC not to place itself in a place of neutrality, but to remain fair and focused. The Labour Party's presidential candidate also states that it is not only an embarrassment, but a repudiation of the duty of INEC when it adorns the garb of a contestant in an election it conducted as an umpire to raise preliminary objection against an election petition. He adds that he expected the electoral body to maintain a neutral stand in all litigations where participants in elections are challenging the outcome of the elections and not indulging in filing objections to the petition. He also described as misconceived INEC's preliminary objection against the petition he lodged against the declaration of Tinubu as winner of the presidential election. And that's it on Lunchtime Politics at this hour. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.
Our website,